Hi, this is Jeff. Another one of these videos on specific points for the ministry and missions, realities and fallacies chapters. So this one is about what I'll call the best practices for church boards, church councils, pastors on dealing with incoming requests and complaints and issues. Okay? So what are some of the best practices based on this experience? Well, I'm going to give you the 4 points, and I'm going to dive into them each individually. But the 4 points that I've learned how to kind of focus on with a church board or council is, number 1, use the Matthew 18 principle. Go have people work it out first. Okay. Second one is partially related. When people come to you with issues, that they bring 3 supporting biblical passages of Scripture about that point. We'll look at more in a minute. Third point is, do not use or drop names of people in public forums or areas. Okay? And the fourth one is, do not use email as a primary means of communication. Let's look at these, okay? The first one is use the Matthew 18 principle. What does that mean? The pastor, chaplain, vicar, whatever you want to talk, the priest in charge, and the church council board and deacons are not customer complaint filtering services. Okay, that's not their role. They end up playing that role because people don't follow this principle. But let's look at that in more detail. So biblically, these people should be an advanced level in the biblical passage, Matthew 18, verses 15 to 17. We're going to read that in just a minute here. But they should not be in the first level. Okay, the first level of communication, first level of problems, they should not be that. They're at the next levels. Okay? So the principle is send people, if they come in and complain to you, okay, let's read the passage, okay, and then we'll talk about it. So Matthew 18, Matthew 18, verses 15 to 17 says this in the New International Version. If your brother or sister sins, go and point out their fault, just between the two of you. If they listen to you, you have won them over. But if they will not listen, then take 1 or 2 others along, so that every matter may be established by the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. If they still refuse to listen, tell it to the church. And if they refuse to listen again, even to the church, treat them as you would a pagan or tax collector. Now let's go back and see the principles here. So when people come up to me and complain, I say, have you gone and worked it out with your brother or sister? Have you gone and approached them and dealt with it? Do that first. Then apply the Matthew 18 rule, which we've just here, guideline is, if they resist and don't want to do it, then you bring it to 1 or 2 of the people. And that can be a pastor or council member, okay? Or someone else, but those are going to usually be the levels of people. And then if not, bring the church, and then if not, take it out, okay? Now, one thing I pointed out to people in this is that if you go to the bottom of that page in a study Bible, any NIV study Bible or any study Bible, you will find that there are very little sections of comments at the bottom of that page about that biblical section of Scripture. In fact, that area right there, the whole page. The reason why is because it's very direct. It tells you what to do. And it's not very vague and ambiguous about what it means. Now go read the other passage of Scripture. You're going to be half the page is comments on the commentaries by no well-known study biblical scholars, and then after there's the actual biblical passage. This one, there's very little, if any, comments at the bottom of the page. That means it's pretty clear what that section is talking about. And I've told people that too when they've approached me with these issues of this. So I've seen this principle work in real life. The Matthew 18 principle. In fact, and it will create resistance at the beginning. People will say, don't quote Scripture at me. And I'm saying, I'm not quoting Scripture at you, I'm just telling you what Jesus said, and here's what it says in red, and there's no comments at the bottom of the page. So people will be resistant when they're confronted with it. And I have actually done this in the presence of another council member with someone. I've actually had to do it right there. I had to skip, I couldn't skip the section 1 because I was there with someone else, and that helped, but it confronted the issue because it was already existing. Okay? I have seen people resist, get frustrated, walk away, and then come back and apologize 30 minutes, 60 minutes later for being out of line. in that line. So it can be used in a very good, constructive way, and that's the focus, is to tell people to go work it out first, okay, with the people that they're having the issues with. Point 2, 3 supporting passages. Any issues or complaints or statements about improvements that should be made in the church, other than very obvious sins like adultery and fraud and those things that are so clear that you know, but any request for improvement, I always tell people, not just the council, but people in general, can you please provide me with 3 supporting passages of Scripture in different parts of the Bible, not on the same page? Then I tell them, if they start to say, if you don't give me any, I'll basically send you away. Or I will give you 10 that will actually contradict what you're saying. That's what you don't want, off the top of my head. I've actually done this. I will quote out Scripture directly on the point. Okay, on topics. These are general topics. If they bring 1 to me, then I'll send them home to do their homework. If they bring 2 to me, then I'll help them find the 3rd one right there. Okay, so it's thinking, have they done their homework? Have they really thought through it? And the reason for that is that when you're taking 3 passages of Scripture in different places of the Bible, you're cross-validating the point, and it's not a personal opinion. It's not just a personal point of view. When you can allow for different parts of Scripture that cross-validate themselves, to point that, then it has a value and a justification to be able to come with it. But if there's nothing, it can be just a pure kind of a general preferences, and you want to weed out those personal preferences and people's opinions, that's just like that you can't deal with everything. Moses didn't either. Jethro told him to set up 12 people in Exodus chapter 18 or 19 to weed out the issues about the 12 council members, the 12 leaders of each tribe before it came to him. Okay, it was setting up the Supreme Court, same thing. Point 3, so we've seen 2 points, was Matthew 18 principle. Second was 3 supporting passages of Scripture. Point 3 is do not drop names in public or a public forum or public area. What does that mean? Anything you say in council or board meetings, hush hush. Don't talk about it. Don't leak information out, other than what you write up in the meeting minutes. Do not leak it out, okay? Go watch also my other video that I talk about the differences in different types of denominations, of different types of councils and things like that. I talk a little bit more there too, when you have meeting minutes and when you don't, what is oral and what is written, okay? But don't use, so some practical things, do not use people's names in the inappropriate council, like a church administration council. Don't use people's names in that. That should only be discussed in meetings where you're talking about people issues, okay? Secondly, do not use people's names out in the street, nor on the church parking lot, or inside the church premises, or especially in online public forums, okay? I know that in the past, in 2012, I had some questions. I went into an online public forum and I scrubbed my questions completely of all possibility trace to what church I was in, what country I was in, even what region I was in the world. So that when I had a pseudonym that was not related to, you couldn't find me, it was just to be able to ask some questions and get some answers. Do not use people's names or where they're located or any of that in these types of areas, because it'll be traceable, and what it will do is it will come back and bite you behind, because it will have leaked out to the person, and they'll come back at you with a very, it's not very pleasant, okay? So I've learned to avoid that. Point 4. Just in those 3 points. Point 4 is do not use email as a primary means of communication. What we've seen before here, go work it out. Go work it out. Talk with people. Give them a call. Do not work things out by email. But even that, do not even try to discuss things by email. Email should be a follow-up. Go watch my other video where I talk about leadership, management, and the types of levels with who, what, when, where, and why, or the actual reorganization of those. Email should be used at the lowest levels after you've talked about the why and the what and all the how. Then use email to discuss the when and the where. Those are logistics, administrative things. Use email to do that at the lowest level of the extra things to discuss about. Do not use email to begin discussions. Do not use email to do that. People hide behind it. They use it. Go watch the video about bullying and all. You'll see that it comes out of that. So 4 points again. 1 is the Matthew 18 principle. Use it. Secondly is 3 passages of Scripture. supporting evidence to use it. Third one is go ahead and do not use people's names in public or in forums and areas, and even in prayer meetings, watch out as much as possible. And then unless it's really noticed prayer. And number 4 is do not use email as a primary means of communication. Hope that helps with some general best practices. These will probably reduce 80% of your pain of issues and problems in church if you just apply them in a practical and pragmatic way.